You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome to this episode of KCSN Update presented by our friends at DraftKings. I'm BJ Kissel, soon going to be joined by the prince of NFL analytics content, Mr. Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus. Excited to get his thoughts on the Chiefs offense against the Bengals defense. But you know the deal. Before we bring on Trevor to get his thoughts, here's a quick word from our friends at DraftKings. 4 NFL teams, 2 conference championship games, and only a few more shots to win big on the NFL playoffs with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Counting down to Super Bowl 57, new customers can bet just $5 and get $200 in free bets instantly. If you're not a new customer, you can feel the conference championship thrills with stepped-up same-game parlays. Take your shot at an even bigger payout and boost your winnings with each leg you add up to 100%. The Chiefs opened as 2.5-point favorites over the Bengals. That almost immediately dropped where the Bengals were favorites. And then the Chiefs put out videos, or the media put out videos of Patrick Mahomes doing little spins and skipping at practice. And then the line went back up. I have no idea why the line's going the way that it is. Probably has something to do with that. But yeah, public is loving them some Bengals right after their win over the Bills. So yeah, I get it. It's going to be a pick'em type matchup. It's going to be a great game. But make sure you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code KCSN as new customers can bet $5 on the conference championships and get $200 in free bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code KCSN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right, let's welcome on that prince of NFL analytics content, Mr. Trevor Sikkema. Trevor, what's going on, man?
Oh, not too much, BJ. Just getting excited for what is going to be an unbelievable Sunday of football. I'm so happy that the playoffs did their job correctly and that we got these 4 teams playing for the conference championships. This is what it's all about. I'm so excited to break this one down with you and get to the weekend.
Yeah, it's almost to the point now where, like, I'm kind of tired of talking about the game because it's just feels like with the game being on Saturday last week, and it just felt like it's taken forever to get to this point. Then you have the Patrick Mahomes ankle stuff. I've never seen more ankle analysis from somebody walking downstairs at a press conference or spinning at a practice that I joked during the open, but like, I don't know what else is causing the line unless there's just huge swings of money going back and forth with these lines. But you didn't know what Patrick Mahomes is going to be. So it opened one way, and then it came out that, you know, he's probably going to play and he's going to fight through it. And it's like, okay. And then he comes out and shows that he's at least moving around. I'm not saying that the little spin that he's barely doing it means all of a sudden he can run around and make the crazy plays that we've seen. But considering what it looked like on Saturday when the injury happened, the fact that he's even out full participant at practice and out there seemingly doing everything he needs to do to get ready, it surprises me, man.
Oh, I thought they were screwed. When I watched Mahomes limp off the field the way he did, I was like, oh boy, they might still win this game because I think the Chiefs are more talented than the Jags, and they ended up doing that. And he even gave him a touchdown drive there, which was great to see for Chiefs fans. But I did not expect Patrick Mahomes to come back out in that game, and I was worried about what was going to be the future. I really was. And so, look, obviously there's the whole world is watching Patrick Mahomes' ankle, and there's a lot of betting angles for it, and there's a lot of predictions for it and everything like that. But look, you tell me. You said you think you've done more analysis. You guys have done more analysis than anybody on this. Like, what percentage do we think he's at with the ankle? What are we going, like 70%, 80%? What are we thinking here? Because he's going to play, right? I mean, like that's not a doubt at this point. But like, what version of Patrick Mahomes are we getting?
Since I'm not there and I don't see it, I have no idea. And even the media is there. They're watching through walkthroughs and then they're out of there. They don't want anyone to know. And the NFL, like, NFL teams don't give much injury news anyway, let alone going into a conference championship game with their star quarterback. But what I will say, and the comparisons have been made to like the start, like Michael Jordan and some of the, like LeBron and those guys. You talk about like the flu game, and like you assume that things like that are going to hold these guys back. And so, you know, you listen to doctors and you've read different reports of saying like the ligaments aren't going to be healed. And so what does that do to limit his mobility and the things that we've watched? I was watching the replay from last year's AFC title game. In the first half, he was making plays that I was watching. The only thing I was thinking is, I don't know if he can do that with his ankle the way it is right now. The touchdown to Kelsey where he turned like 6 different times. Those are the kinds of plays don't know if he's going to make. I wouldn't put a number on it. I'd probably say between 70 and 80%. But 70 and 80% of Patrick Mahomes' mobility plus 8 days for Andy Reid to game plan around that variable, I'm still confident that the Chiefs would be able to move the ball. I've been saying that all week. I still think the Chiefs are going to have a game plan that's going to allow them to move the ball, put points on the board. Andy Reid's too good at what he does to not figure out a way to attack the Bengals defense. And then it's that chess match with Lou Anarumo. I say his name wrong every single time, Trevor. But
you were close. You were close.
Was Anarumo. Okay.
Anarumo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anamaro, that guy does well against the Chiefs. That's what I know. And so I'd say probably between like 70 and 80%. But, there are times where we've watched just unbelievable performances from some of the best we've seen to do it that it doesn't really affect them as much as it would, other people, especially like I said, with Andy Reid and his scheme. But let's get into the matchups and your key stats and all that stuff, because I love getting this information. Always adds a little something new to the discussion. And I know you want to start and focus on the Chiefs offense against this Bengals defense.
Yeah, specifically the run game. I've been emphasizing the run game, I think, over the last month, whether it's been with you, whether it's been up on our PFF shows. I think the run game is going to be paramount for the Kansas City Chiefs this upcoming weekend. I've talked the last couple of weeks about the effectiveness of the run game being really something that they've needed to complement the passing game. Now I think you might have to lean on it a little bit more depending on how much you're able to get from Patrick Mahomes in this game. But when you look at Isaiah Pacheco specifically and this Chiefs rushing attack versus the Jaguars last weekend, 67.9 rushing grade as a team, which is fine. He had 12 carries, 95 yards. But the thing that I really wanted to emphasize is I felt as though the effectiveness of the run game finally went into what I've been looking to see from the Chiefs offense, and that is a dominant time of possession. 35 minutes on offense versus only 25, which the Jaguars had. And when you get to this point in the playoffs, I feel like I sound like a broken record, but you've got to keep the other team's offense off the field. Like Joe Burrow is good enough, and this Bengals offense is good enough to where they're going to score points. It's almost going to come down to a possession battle, right? That's ultimately the reason why head coaches talk about that turnovers are so paramount. It's not just that you are ending your own drive without points. It is you are giving the offense an extra drive, which is breaking serve, if you will. And the more extra possessions you give these other teams, especially in an offensive age like we're in right now, especially against a team like the Bengals, especially against a quarterback like Joe Burrow, you put yourself behind the 8 ball a lot. And so not only do you not want to have turnovers against this team, you want to own the time of possession, and you need to be able to do that. You have to lean on the run game, even more so now with Patrick Mahomes maybe not being 100%. So I think that is extremely, extremely important for them this week to keep the Bengals offense on the field by being able to run the ball, being able to control the clock, get those yards after contact, convert on those 3rd and shorts, all that kinds of good stuff. That's what they're going to need. They're going to need the whole run game to be there for them, and I think it's going to be a massive game for Isaiah Pacheco, the rookie, to have a lot on his shoulders and see what he's going to be able to do for him, because he seems to have been up to every single challenge yet. And Bengals defense, it's a good one. Their front four, their linebackers, really good players, and so they're not going to get any yards easy, but being able to convert on the ground, be consistent and effective on the ground, owning that time of possession, it's going to be huge, BJ. It's going to be extremely paramount in this one.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of talk of that locally just because Jody Fortson, who's been out with an injury, looks like he's coming back at tight end, and maybe they do some more 13 personnel and see what kind of defensive formations, different defensive personnel that the Bengals do in that to kind of lean on that running game. And we've talked about, you and I have talked about Kadarius Toney quite a bit and the different things that they can do, getting defenses moving horizontally, something that Andy Reid has been so good at throughout his career with just the history of the West Coast system and not necessarily thinking about stretching vertically, but stretching horizontally. And this could definitely be another one of those games. And the fact that Isaiah Pacheco had the big game last week when Mahomes got hurt and Chad Henne came in, and I think Isaiah Pacheco had over 40 yards on that 98-yard drive. And we've seen him not really play like a rookie at this point. I think he had 95 rushing yards. It was the most in Chiefs franchise history for a rookie running back, and they're going to need another performance like that. Looks like snow is not going to be a thing, but it is going to be cold in this game. Not that either team is going to have an issue with that, but that old school running game, you need it. And maybe that's a challenge that's been issued to the Chiefs offensive line all week that, hey, we're going to run the football, and they know it from the very beginning. But it's going to be, like you said, a huge challenge because there's a guy in the middle of Bengals defense, DJ Reader, who I watched use an offensive lineman to tackle a running back last week against the Bills. He just kind of threw him like a rag doll, and it was just one of those like holy cow. They didn't focus on it when they showed the replay of the broadcast. I was like, did anyone else just see what DJ Reader did to that poor offensive lineman? It was something.
Dude, it's going to be bring your lunch pail, hard hat kind of a game. It really is, especially with the weather being the way that it is, even with it being as cold as it is. And so total possessions and time of possession really might be the difference in this game with two really great teams, right? I mean, these teams have faced off 3 times before over the last 2 years, and every game has been extremely close. You know, it's been down to the wire. It's been right there no matter what. And that one extra possession, those 3, 4, 5 extra minutes of having that time of possession, that really could be the difference in this game between who ends up going to the Super Bowl or not.
Love it. What else do you got for us? Running game is a big one. We've talked about it throughout the week. And if it's not Isaiah Pacheco, this could be another Jerick McKinnon game. I know we talk a lot about him catching the ball out of the backfield,
right?
But his ability to run the football, we saw it last year in the AFC Championship game against the Bengals that Jerick McKinnon provided a little spark early in that game in the running game.
Yeah, so my next point goes into Patrick Mahomes, and we had to give at least one specific point about Mahomes. But with the ankle being what it is, you mentioned whether it's 70%, 80%, 90%, 60%, whatever it is, he's not going to be 100%. And you go back to some of the games that they played against the Bengals before, the pressure will come up, right? That front four is really good. You mentioned Reader, but Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson, those linebackers coming into the fold as well. They're really good at pressure in the pocket. Mahomes, for the last 4 years, I'll say, has been an absolute magician. He has been one of those players where you go, I mean, do we even want to pressure him at this point? You know, I think the obvious answer is yes, but you look at what he's able to do when defenses are flowing left and right, and he's able to find the soft spots in the zone. He's able to buy enough time to where man coverage will break down with those great receivers that they've had over the last couple of years. But specifically, we feel like he's not going to be as mobile this week as he has been in the past. So just a couple of numbers there. On the season, simply from inside the pocket, Patrick Mahomes has an 84.4 passing grade, which is 4th best in the NFL. And then when you look at his career playoff statistics and his career playoff grades, just inside the pocket, it's 85.5, which those are 2 really high grades. Now, they do take into account a lot of clean pockets, and certainly when you're playing from cleaner pockets, then you're staying there. And normally those will have higher grades just because of a lack of pressure at you. But still, 85.5 and having a top 5 grade from inside the pocket, it's something worth noting. And it's to say that even if Mahomes isn't being this crazy scrambler to the sideline kind of a player, this is a dangerous quarterback. I know I'm preaching to the choir. I don't need to tell Chiefs fans this, but a little bit of reassurance there. He is still one of the best in the NFL. When we think of Mahomes, like I said, we think of the out of structure. We think of the crazy. We think of those things. But in between the tackles and in a clean pocket, this is, of course, still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So even if you're only getting a 70, 80% of a mobile Mahomes, there's still reason to believe that could be enough to win this game on Sunday.
And as much as we've talked about the ankle and the lack of mobility and what we could see, and I don't think it's going to mentally stop Patrick Mahomes from trying to do. I think the natural instincts of him scrambling around are going to happen, and we'll really see if the ankle's tested, because I don't think he mentally can just tell himself not to try to make plays like that because of the way that he's wired. But we spent so much time talking physically about what he's going to be able to do, and on our side, like how Andy Reid is going to game plan around and call a game based on what we assume is limited mobility. But the other side of this is the Bengals. How do they defensively attack the Chiefs offense, understanding that he may be less mobile than he was in the past? So there's so many pieces to this chess match that are going to be fascinating to see how they all play out, that we'll spend months breaking this down, regardless of what happens in the game, of how did the Chiefs call it? How did the Bengals call it? How is it different? Can you notice anything different about the way the game's called compared to the last, 4 games because of the limited mobility? It's fascinating to me. I love that side of the game and trying to figure out why they did certain things. You can ask them. I don't know if they'll tell after the games. what kind of the game plan was going in. But that side of it, and to all the numbers you just brought up of Patrick Mahomes staying in the pocket, also really curious on the Bengals side how they try and play him defensively any differently than they have in the past.
I think protection call outs and protection adjustments in the pre-snap are going to be huge, right? Because what you don't want, what you expect to happen is you think that the Bengals and Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator, are going to throw a lot of resources between the tackles. It's going to be a lot of A-gap blitzes, B-gap blitzes, those kinds of things, because if you can overwhelm them from the middle, you then demand Patrick Mahomes to be more mobile outside of the tackle and move more than you would want him to, right? If you are pressuring off the edge, which sometimes they will do with their nickel corners, they like to do that as well. There is a reality where even if he has pressure, that type of pressure from the edge means that he just kind of has to step up into the pocket a little bit, especially if the interior guys are blocking the way that they need to. So I would expect a lot more looks and a lot more pressure up the middle. That then makes the demand for pre-snap protection adjustments, the demand for that to be on point is so high in this game, because not only do you want to make sure that blitzes are correctly accounted for, you can't be caught off guard. Because if, say Patrick Mahomes gets up to the line of scrimmage and he's communicating with Creed or however it's going, whichever guy notices something first, and they go, okay, we're going to slide right. We've got to slide right here. This is where we think the blitz is coming from. And then it doesn't. If it comes from a totally different spot, then not only are you prepared, then you are also adjusting probably in almost panic mode, right? Under 1 second into the play. And that's where you don't want Patrick Mahomes to be, because that's when, even if he's good to play on the ankle, right? Even if it's all wrapped up as much as it could be, whatever, when you have those moments where the ball comes into your hand and a blitz is coming from where you didn't think, your body is having to react immediately. And with those quick, immediate, steps in the ground or maybe adjustments, movements, hops one way or the other, that's what you don't want him to re-aggravate that ankle injury, really just go against it. So I just think that all of those things kind of stack up, and all those scenarios just go into how important it's going to be to recognize where what I believe is going to be a lot of that interior pressure is going to come from, and adjust to it in the pre-snap. Because if you could plan for it, even if you know, even if you say to yourself, okay, they're probably going to get pressure on me here on this play, but I see where it's coming from, and I know that I can adjust to it. That's a lot different than saying, okay, I know where the pressure's coming from on this play, and then it comes from a completely different place, and the offensive line isn't ready for it. So I just believe that pre-snap is going to be extremely important in this game.
For sure. All right, let's move on to the next key matchup that you've got in this one. Again, talking with Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus.
So this one is less of a prediction number and more of something that I just wanted to throw out at people because I thought it was fascinating. The Bengals coverage deployment against the Chiefs specifically versus every other team in the NFL, and then what might happen this Sunday, and it's something that I'm just really intrigued to see. So I looked at the Bengals' last 3 games against the Kansas City Chiefs, okay? So in these last 3 matchups, the Bengals played more 2 high safeties than they did single high safeties. They played cover 2 32 times, they played quarters coverage 30 times, and then they played cover 1 31 times, cover 3 25 times. So a little bit more 2 high looks going up against Patrick Mahomes. That makes sense. Against everyone else over the last 2 years, they have played single high safety by far the most. By far. Cover 3 is their most deployed coverage shell. Then it's cover 1. Then it's cover 2. Then it is quarters. But it is we're over 300, 329 on cover 3, 214 on cover 1, and then it's all the way down to 164 cover 2 and 141 with quarters. So they completely adjust when they play even just the Kansas City Chiefs, right? It is almost specific how they are going to a different coverage plan with them. Now, the Chiefs, this is how their passing game has graded out against different coverage shells. Against 2 high safeties, and you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, the Chiefs are better. The Chiefs are actually better this year at going after two safety shells. They have an 83.8 grade against cover 2, 81.5 grade against quarters. And then if you play single high against them, I don't know, maybe they're getting a little bit too risky, but a 76.3 grade and a 77.1 grade against cover 1 and cover 3. Now, this is the part that I thought was interesting as well. I feel like Mahomes and this Chiefs offense has really dedicated themselves to attacking two high safety shells because they know they were going to see a lot of it. They only have 2 turnover-worthy plays against two high looks so far this year. One against quarters and one against cover 2. But if you play single high against them, I don't know if it just opens things up and Patrick Mahomes gets a little bit more tempted and he wants to push the ball a little bit further. But we have 4 turnover-worthy plays against cover 1, 3 turnover-worthy plays against cover 3. So the last thing that I'll say about this, I know it's a lot of numbers that I'm throwing at people. Lou Anarumo does a really great job of not tipping his hand and allowing his defense to stay as versatile as possible. Because when you look at the very last game that they played against the Chiefs in Week 13, it was almost dead even. 7 snaps in quarters, 7 snaps in cover 2, 8 snaps in cover 3, 9 snaps in cover 1. So it's almost dead even how often they're playing different types of either single high or two high coverages. So that's just going to be such a fascinating thing. Anarumo has done a wonderful job of making this defense and this secondary as versatile as possible, even within the games. So how they are going to go after them, are they going to tempt them with more single high looks because Patrick Mahomes has had more turnover-worthy plays going against single high? Or are they going to stick with what they have done over the last 3 matches that they have played the Chiefs and go with more two high shells, play things a little bit safer, allow those passes to come up a little bit underneath? So I know that's a lot of numbers I threw at everybody, but those are fascinating the way that I saw them.
I love it. Now, as we wrap up this show, we got a short one today. Again, talking with Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus. Trevor, I want to get your prediction. The $1 million question. What do you think is going to happen? As somebody who lives in Cincinnati, I understand. Don't worry. Nate Taylor, our beat writer for The Athletic, already picked the Bengals to win this game.
It is so hard to say that a team would beat the Kansas City Chiefs 4 times in a row. But because of Mahomes' ankle injury, I'm going to pick the Bengals. I'm sorry, BJ. I'm sorry, everybody out there.
You know what? I just love the fact that we're going to have all kinds of content that we can go back and edit up together and just say nobody believed it. For a team like the Chiefs with Andy Reid and Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, you don't get a lot of opportunities to be like, nobody believed that we would win.
This is true.
And you kind of miss it a little bit. Like we were the underdog for so long, and it, not to go off on a tangent, but like Chiefs fans, like we deserve this time. And it's not just because, we had a couple losses that like younger NFL fans remember. No, the Chiefs have the NFL record for the most consecutive playoff losses in NFL history. Oh, wow, and they were in brutal fashion, going back to no punt games. And like for people like my generation, we've experienced some brutal losses and some brutal comebacks. The one last year against the Bengals wasn't great. If anybody remembers Indy back in 2013 and the lead that they had, like it had a lot of brutal ones. So the fact that everybody, a lot of people are doubting the Chiefs right now. I kind of miss being the underdog in that kind of way. So it doesn't bother me. It bothered me more that Nate said that the Bengals are going to win. As somebody who follows the team and understands somebody who's around Patrick Mahomes, how he's wired, but I get it. I completely get it. I think it's going to be a hell of a football game. I can't wait to watch it. The chess match part of it, I'm going to be excited to see how Andy Reid adjusts and where the big plays come from. And, we talk so much about the numbers and breaking it down that, every time we always get back to, can you get pressure on the opposing quarterback? Can you protect your quarterback and not turn the ball over? Like if the Chiefs don't turn the ball over and they keep Patrick Mahomes upright and they make Joe Burrow, not going to tackle him a lot, like sack him a lot just because he gets the ball out so quickly. I've used the PFF numbers of Joe Burrow being, I think, second fastest time to attempt outside of Tom Brady in the NFL. So if you can just get him to hitch on the first one, just get him to hitch and hold on to the ball just a second and then get the pass rush home, you have a chance. But it's going to be a hell of a football game. Can't wait to see it. But appreciate everybody for listening to this episode and hanging out with us for part of your Friday or Saturday. We'll have more content getting you ready for Chiefs and Bengals on Sunday night. Make sure to hang out with us. We're doing a second screen watch party from the Wynn Casino, the Blue Wire studio there. We'll be hanging out during the game, streaming on our YouTube channel. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe on YouTube and turn notifications on. You can hang out with us during the game if you're not going to be out at Arrowhead. And if you are, I don't need to tell you to be loud because I can't wait to see what that atmosphere is like. I got a little FOMO, Trevor, not going to lie to you. I think it's going to be a phenomenal, don't want to miss this type atmosphere at Arrowhead with some of the things that have been said about Arrowhead and that fact that Patrick Mahomes is being dominated by Joe Burrow. So I think that stuff hit home a little bit. We'll see what happens. Again, appreciate all you for hanging out. We'll see you next time.